What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. I have some very sad news to pass along to you all. And those of you who are my generation and older, you will recognize the significance of this passing. Sometimes the word legend gets used too liberally. Steve Kerr, for example. But this person right here was a legend in music, and particularly the country music genre, although her music went beyond just the country music category. She was a legend in the entertainment industry. She was known for her appearances on television and film. She was a cultural icon. The buxom blonde, Dolly Parton, had been an icon for 50 years. Recently, after the passing of her husband last year, she had been in declining health, but always promising, just as recently as 4 days ago. In articles just yesterday saying that she was determined to recover and to perform well into her 80s. That will not happen, unfortunately, because it was announced today that Dolly Parton has died. Singer-songwriter actress Dolly Parton, whose glittery country music stardom was matched by her pop fame and popular parallel careers in film and TV, passed away today, August 25th. She was 80 years old. The announcement came on her official Instagram with a video from her nephew, Brian Seaver, on behalf of the Parton family. Parton's health issues have become headlines over the past year. It was September 28th of last year. She announced that she would not be able to follow through on a 6-show December residency at Las Vegas Caesars Palace that had been announced as a long-awaited return to the concert stage. Parton's health had become a further subject of concern a couple of days later when she announced that she would not be participating in the Motion Pictures Academy's Governor's Award in November to accept the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award. It had been understood that Parton would accept the award remotely, but Parton ultimately ruled even that out. But Parton had not been sidelined for very long, it seemed. She was on hand for multiple shows and participating in the creative process when a new musical about her life, Dolly, an American musical, an original musical, had its premiere engagement at the Fisher Center on the campus of Belmont University in Nashville this past July and August. The autobiographical film held its pre-Broadway run there with expectations that the show might open in New York in 2026. Why does it seem like every time that, not every time, but oftentimes when there's an autobiographical film or anything connected with an artist, it seems like it always happens right before they pass. It happens. It happens like all the time. We saw it with Ray Charles. We've seen it before with others. Parton's biggest public moment in recent years had been her induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2022. She first said she did not want the honor when her name appeared on the ballot that year, saying she was not a true rocker, but she relented under enthusiastic pressure. Parton subsequently released what turned out to be her final album, Rockstar, in 2023, doing duets with top stars and claiming the rock mantle she had resisted. Many of her 25 number one country singles were self-penned After her predecessor Loretta Lynn, she was one of the first major female stars of the genre to write much of her own hit material. Her best known song is I Will Always Love You, a ballad she authored after sundering her association with Wagner in 1974. And that was her vocalist, who she was in a relationship with. Um, the tune reached number one on the country charts in two different versions by Parton in 1974 and in 1982. In 1992, Whitney Houston's dramatic reading from the soundtrack of the feature The Bodyguard spent a record breaking 14 weeks at number one on the US pop charts and sold 4 million copies. It was the lead track from the film's soundtrack album, which sold 45 million copies worldwide. Beginning in the late 70s, Parton's pop music profile rose, as did her visibility on TV, where she top-lined three variety shows during the course of her career, and film. She did her most high-profile acting work in the early 80s in movies like 9 to 5, which garnered her a Golden Globe acting nod in the titular crossover pop and country hit, Working 9 to 5, The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, and Steel Magnolias. As producer, Parton, in partnership with her former manager Sandy Gallin, launched the hit TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and the top-grossing Steve Martin, Diane Keaton, Father of the Bride comedy vehicles. Her pop stardom began to fade in the mid-'80s, but she continued to flex her country bona fides on two well-received trio albums with Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt, and three striking bluegrass collections issued by the indie country label Sugar Hill Records. Parton's bigger-than-life personality and rags to riches career were celebrated in her own theme park, Dollywood, located in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, not far from her childhood home in rural Sevierville, Tennessee. A 1999 inductee in the Country Music Hall of Fame, she also joined the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame in 1986 and the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2001. She was a National Medal of Arts honoree in 2005 and a Kennedy Center's honors recipient in 2006. The fourth of 12 children, she was born January 19th, 1946, into a poverty-stricken farming family. Deprivation drove her mother to make her children's clothes from rags. Parton transformed that experience into one of her signature early songs, Coat of Many Colors. Parton first sang on local radio and issued her first single, Puppy Love, on the Louisiana label Gold Band when she was just 13 years old. She performed at the Grand Ole Opry as a teen. Immediately upon graduation from high school in 1964, she bolted for Nashville, where she set up shop as a songwriter, writing material for Skeeter Davis, Kitty Wells, and others. It was there, and at that time, when she was signed to Monument Records, home of pop-oriented singers Brenda Lee and Roy Orbison, it was at that time that she began to rise in the music industry, making hit after hit and song after song. And 1973 might have been one of her most popular songs, Jolene, the number one hit. And I think a lot of people don't know that I Will Always Love You was Dolly Parton's song. It's not, well, Whitney Houston had the most popular version, but it was actually written by Dolly Parton. I think a lot of people forget that. And I think that is no longer common knowledge. And, from a personal standpoint, aside from the fact that, Dolly in her prime was, for her time, was a very uniquely shaped white woman, known for, certain physical attributes that she was blessed to have. That'll help with the appeal, but even if she didn't have that, she would still have been a phenomenal talent. Uh, the looks, helped, of course, obviously, and she was able to maintain much of those looks for longer than most women. Some of it, of course, was augmented, but everyone wants to look good, but she was a good person on the inside and out, from what I can decipher, from what I've read. And her husband recently, I think his name was Carl Dean. Uh, don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was her husband's name. He had been ill, and at the same time, Dolly's health had been deteriorating recently or going downhill. And I think the death of her husband last year took a lot out of her, um, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And you see this a lot. You see this oftentimes when one spouse passes, the other spouse doesn't last much longer. Um, when Barbara Bush, I'm just using random people. Um, we saw this with Barbara Bush, and then George H.W. passed later that same year. We saw with Rosalind Carter in 2023, and then Jimmy died the next year. Pat Nixon died in 1993, Richard Nixon the very next year. I'm just using high profile people off the top of my head. And then there's, of course, other examples, even more extreme examples. I'm using political figures because that's just people that pop in my head. I love politics. Um, what was his name? The first black mayor of New York. What is his damn name? Oh Jesus, can't believe I'm forgetting his name. But his wife had passed away literally a month before him. I want to say it's a D, Mayor Dinkins, Dinkins. When his wife passed away, I think a month before he passed away. So rest in peace, Dolly Parton, man.